From the land of sky blue waters, welcome to the Sota Pod. Ishidromi here, and Seth Toupal will be joining us momentarily. But I thank you all for joining wherever and whenever you are listening. We're back. Took Labor Day weekend off, and this episode's coming to you late on Monday, but we are back nonetheless. Hope you all had a great Labor Day weekend. Hope you all have been enjoying this first week of September. Now, no Hoppy Hour here today, but we do have a big extended Hoppy Hour coming to you guys next week, especially for everybody who watches these episodes on YouTube. It's more of a full-on vlog than it is just an individual beer review. I went up north for Labor Day to my friend's cabin. We stopped at a few breweries along the way, tried an array of different kind of beers. And by the way, God, I should have written this down, so my apologies. I'll throw it up on screen here after or when I'm editing this. But shout out to our homie who suggested one of the beers at Big Axe. I commented a couple weeks ago saying that I am going up that way soon and that I actually very much enjoy Big Axe, but we stopped at Big Axe. That was the last brewery we stopped at on the way back home, and definitely took your suggestion. It was awesome. The reason why the Hoppy Hour vlog is not going to be featured in this video on YouTube and also not featured in the podcast is because over the weekend I lost my voice. I streamed 17 hours straight on my second channel, this City Life Project. Go check it out. And I woke up Sunday morning ready to work on the vlog. I had to do some voiceover on the vlog because I didn't do commentary while I was at all the breweries, sometimes just because it was loud. Also, I was hanging out with some friends. I didn't want to be in content creator mode the whole time when we're just chilling with the homies. So I planned to do it on Sunday. I'd planned to record the intro and outro to the podcast, what I'm doing right now, on Sunday. But I went to bed at 7 a.m., started streaming at 10 a.m. on Saturday, ended streaming on Sunday at 7 a.m., got a couple hours of sleep, woke up 10 o'clock, no voice, gone. I walked upstairs, said hello to my roommate, and you guys can probably hear it's still a little bit raspy right now, and nothing came out. So I didn't speak for the rest of the day, and I was just sipping on honey, lemon, and hot water, which is still what I'm drinking right now. So anyways, I didn't want to A, further tax my voice, and B, sound like a freaking 30-year cigarette smoker on the voiceovers on the Hoppy Hour vlog. So I'm going to finish editing it. I'll finish the voiceovers likely tomorrow or the next day. I will post it by itself on the City Life Project YouTube channel, but it will be in the next Sota Pod episode, and then I'll just include a rundown a little bit shorter than some of the voiceovers and detailed rundown that's going to be in the vlog, but I will run down every single beer as well on the Sota Pod for audio. For all the audio listeners, by the way, for those who are listening on the podcast, hey, we appreciate you guys. If you want the full experience of the Hoppy Hour, the full beer reviews, some of the vlogs, check out these episodes on YouTube, even if you just scroll to the Hoppy Hour portion, which is usually after the part with Seth. Speaking of, Seth and I recorded late Thursday night, so there's a couple things that occurred over the weekend. My voice is killing me even right now, so I'm just going to dive into two of them quickly, and then we'll catch up on everything else when Seth and I catch up later this week. That's going to be kind of the cadence, is Seth and I are going to record these episodes on Thursday. If I can get them out earlier, like on a Friday or Saturday, I will. Usually got a busy weekend of streaming on the City Life Project, so I'm going to keep aiming to drop them on Sunday or Mondays. But if I can get them out earlier so that the topics are as topical and as close to the day of recording as possible, then I'm going to do that. But just know that sometimes it's not going to happen. It is what it is. I still appreciate you guys supporting the show. Seth and I did have a really good conversation though. Touched on a lot of things. And other than the two things that I'm going to bring up right now, there was nothing really else that is pressing to get into. Nothing else that can't wait until we link up again this Thursday. Before we get to the first topic here, I just want to give a big shout out to our friends at Northland Vodka. Hockey season's just around the corner. Football season has started, both the college season and NFL. And for all the real football fans out there, the CFL, I mean, we're balls deep into the CFL already. Just saying. But celebrate football Sundays. Celebrate with a cocktail or two. Celebrate with the best damn vodka on the planet, Northland Vodka, ladies and gentlemen. Big shout out to everybody who joined the crew at Northland Vodka throughout the summer and met up with them at all of their bottle signings. More to come this fall and winter season, and we will keep you updated on those. We love working with Northland Vodka. Amazing product, local product, awesome team. Mark Parrish and the crew there are just the best people, ladies and gentlemen. And it's an honor to be able to work with them here on the podcast. You know what's even better? A percentage of every sale goes back into the community, goes back into local hockey. So what are you waiting for? Go pick you up some Northland today. Help celebrate the start of hockey season. Help take the edge off when this high of the Vikings eventually comes back down to earth. I'm sorry. I had to say it. I've lived in Minnesota long enough now to know that it ain't gonna last, ladies and gentlemen. It ain't gonna last. Northland Vodka, a proud partner of the Sota Pod. Okay, I quickly just want to go over and touch on the PWHL launching the names and logos of all the franchises, and I have to say, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with every single one. Now, Seth and I will rate them. Seth and I will grade them individually on the next episode. But I just wanted to give my thoughts, my first thoughts, raw reactions. I just pulled them up for the first time right now. And though I'll say like three of them kind of remind me as esports logos, that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing at all. So we have the Boston Fleet, Minnesota Frost, Victoire de Montréal, New York Sirens, Ottawa Charge, and Toronto Scepters. So let's just go through them. The Boston one, I like it. And kind of an ode to the Whalers with the B. Green's my favorite color. Even though this one's kind of a darker forest green. I mean, I like it. I like the Boston one. I like the Waves. I like the Whalers tribute. And I like how it's a B. I think that one's tremendous. Minnesota Frost. This one looks more like a esport logo than any of them. I really like this one as well. They kept the same colors with the kind of the light purple or dark pink. I might be a little bit colorblind, but that's how I see it there. The dark purple and the white. I like this. I like this one as well. It's frosty. That's the best way to describe it. It's a frosty F. I like the name. I like the logo. It's simple. I'm glad they kept the same colors. Satisfied with that one as well. Victoire Montréal. Man, this one's sick. They got the fleur-de-lis in it. Cool patch, cool crest. For some reason, just because of the colors, even though it's not white, it's kind of a cream color. My mind just goes to the Washington Capitals, but I like it. I like this one as well. I'm usually not a big fan of the name in the logo, but they make it work with this one. So I like this one as well. The Boston one is still my favorite. So far, I like the Boston one the most. Frost second, Victoire third. The New York Siren. Oh, this one's sick. Now, I might be a little biased. I come from Vancouver, and though I was like really young when the Vancouver Grizzlies were in the NBA, I love the color scheme. I love the turquoise. I love the orange. I love the orange, white, and turquoise together. And I just said that, like, yeah, I usually don't like the name in the logo, but this one, they made it work so well. Now, this one would be kind of harder just to replicate and draw, and that's kind of the same with the Victoire. And Don Taylor, a really famous radio and TV personality up in Canada who worked for Sportsnet, TSN, and now is doing his own thing with Donnie and Dolly. He always says that the best logos in sports are ones kids can draw. Simplicity, memorable. This one, especially the Victoire, might be a little bit harder, but I love the color scheme, and I think they make it work beautifully anyways, incorporating the name Sirens. Again, might be a little bit biased. Some people might be like, it's too simple and it's actually not good, but maybe it's just because I love the Vancouver Grizzlies colors that I like this one. Ottawa Charge. I mean, the Calgary Flames and the Cleveland Cavaliers had a baby, and that baby is the Ottawa Charge. It's good. I mean, I like the Calgary Flames logo, and I feel like this is it's simple, it's effective. I like it. Toronto Scepters, TSEE. in a scepter in the logo. I like the blue and yellow. It's fine. I'm never going to love it because it's Toronto and I hate everything Toronto sports. So to be honest, you know what? No, fuck this one. I hate this one. This one sucks. Boston one's my favorite, followed by the Frost. I would say Sirens, Ottawa, Victoire. I like Victoire's creativity, but I think it's just out of all of them, it's a little too busy. And then just fuck the Toronto one. Colors are nice, but it's fucking a stupid TS scepter here. Overall though, like the names, like the logos. Can't wait for this season of PWHL hockey. Last season, their inaugural season was awesome. Go Minnesota. I know that there's some new staff. There's a new general manager. Obviously, due to the controversy and all the shit that happened after they won a championship, there was quite a bit of turnover. Seth and I will dive into that on the next episode in detail, but I did want to give you guys my raw, unfiltered, and first reaction to the names and logos of the teams. Cannot wait for the second season and can't wait for it to expand as well. NFL Week 1 is here, and a new season means new ways to get in on all the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like picking a player to score a touchdown, money lines, and more. Ready to do a touchdown dance of your own? Score big with DraftKings Sportsbook, the best place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's right, use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $250 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 and get 1 month of NFL Plus Premium on us. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus Premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus Premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
One more thing here before we bring on Seth, and this one just breaks my heart even more, man. Columbus Blue Jackets writer Marc Staal reported earlier today, Monday, September 9th, on the day of Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Gaudreau's celebration of life, that Meredith Gaudreau is actually pregnant with their third child. Oh man, and a lot of you have probably already seen this right now. I don't even know why I'm bringing it up, but it's just, oh man, it's just so sad, dude. Like, could this story get any more tragic? Honestly. Fuck, man. So not only was Matthew Gaudreau's wife pregnant, but Johnny Gaudreau's wife was too, man. So not only did Johnny Gaudreau leave 2 children behind, there's a third as well. I don't really know what to say. Honestly, I'm going to leave this in the podcast, but I wrote it in my notes. I don't know why. Like, there's nothing for me to comment on other than just, I guess, for you guys to see my reaction to it, hear my reaction to it. It's fucking devastating, man. Absolutely devastating. The clips that I saw from the celebration of life, I mean, it seems like she's being as strong as she can, so love, prayers, and props to her, man. She's a strong one. Wow. And by the way, I don't know if I like all the clips and everything that are coming out in that, like, Bar Down and TSN and ESPN and Sportsnet. They're like posting all these like clips of like the celebration of life. And I guess it's like, it is just that, like a celebration of life. But I don't know. It's like, we weren't invited. The public wasn't invited. It should be the friends, family, teammates who are part of that intense and intimate setting together. I don't know. That's just my take on it. I for one, am not seeking out footage of that. And when I saw it on social media, I just scrolled past it for me, it's like that's not for me to be involved with. That's their ceremony, right? So, anyways, love, prayers, warm thoughts, obviously, to the Gaudreau family, man, and to the friends and family of Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau and their loved ones. Fucking tragic story. That's all there is to it. Seth and I talk a little bit about it, as well as him and I hadn't had a chance to talk about it before recording. So you guys will hear a little bit more about it in the next segment, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get to it. On the other side, it's a hard right turn, but we're going to take it. Seth Toupal from LockedOn Wild. And we are back for some more hockey talk here with your friend and mine, Seth Toupal. How's it going, buddy? How was your Labor Day weekend?
Pretty chill. College football is back. The NFL is back. And so Saturdays and Sundays, for the most part, I'm pretty locked in.
Hey, how about that Nebraska quarterback? Whew.
Dude, I was talking with a buddy of mine about that. They might have something. Nebraska might have a little something down there.
I know they were facing like to put into fight terms, a tomato can of a team, but still, like, he looked good.
Is that the term for like cupcake in fight terms?
I mean, if cupcake means like a layup of an opponent, yeah, tomato can.
Yeah, it's
you crush the can.
The hockey equivalent would be empty net.
Yes. No, I actually watched a ton of college football. As I was up at my friend's cabin, and they're just big football guys. Actually, they're big Cornhuskers fans, so we definitely watched that game. And one of my clients actually is a WVU podcast, WVU sports podcast. Steve Slayton is actually one of the co-hosts. WVU legend and also former NFL and CFL player. I actually have to edit one of their episodes later tonight. So I had like some sort of interest in the Penn State and WVU game. Weather shit aside, I mean, it just added to the shitstorm there, I guess, because that game was like delayed at halftime, like 2 hours. But no, I got like a ton of college football, a big college football fix. And like, I'm not the biggest football fan, but honestly, I was more into college football. Maybe it's because that was the only sports that were on and we were kind of all into it. But I was more into it than like sitting there watching a whole game or a whole day's worth of NFL personally. And again, I'm not the biggest football guy, but I think I'm going to keep tabs on college football this year.
College football does it the best, and obviously they have just a much wider range of teams to pull from. But YouTube TV, I think it was 2 years ago now, they introduced the quad box. And so they have it so that, you know, if there are 4 11 a.m. games, you can get them all on the screen. It's glorious. Because then all you have to do is like you have to just switch to which one is highlighted if you want to listen into a particular game. That's cool. So I pop that on the TV. I have, chili or some kind of. I like to do soups for watching football for some reason because it's easy to refill. You can leave it on the burner on really low, and then. I'm getting back into reading quite a bit. So I have a book with me. If I don't feel like, if the slate isn't that appealing, keep it on in the background and just get 5-10 chapters done. Like it's the perfect Saturday and then the perfect Sunday.
I like it. So overall, good long weekend, watched some football, hung out, chilled out on Monday.
Yeah, played some Apex Legends on Sunday too.
Oh my God. They're not a sponsor, by the way, folks, but we will take their money if they want to be.
I have a group. I have a couple of friends that we like to play Call of Duty quite a bit, but those games are getting to where there are like 400-500 gigabytes to download for just like everything that the game entails. It's takes crazy. Up your entire Xbox. So we have looked to other avenues and play a little Apex.
I've been wanting to try Counter-Strike 2. I literally have to buy or build an entire new computer to run it.
And that's not like, it's not fun because then you pop it on for the first time in a week and it's like, oh, we have a 200 gigabyte update. And it's like, all right, well now I can't touch this till Monday. Yeah. So we've looked at other avenues and played some Apex, won a couple of games. It was a fun weekend.
I like it. So yeah, as people know, we didn't have a podcast last weekend. I was away, got back late Monday, and then just like the work week slapped me in the face. So I've just been go since then. But we do have a lot to talk about. So let's just dive right into it here. We'll start with some Minnesota Wild topics, then get into some NHL, and then just some greater hockey topics as well. Let's start with the Minnesota Wild. Let's start with Alex Goligoski hanging up the skates after 17 years in the National Hockey League. 17 seasons, Seth. Amazing. Over 1,000 games, 1,078 NHL games to be exact, playing with the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Dallas Stars, the Arizona Coyotes, and the Minnesota Wild. He amassed 475 points, 87 goals. I mean, and a solid defenseman, let's be perfectly honest. I know as a young guy with the Pittsburgh Penguins, there was a lot of good things. There was a lot of positivity around him as a prospect. With the Dallas Stars, I always considered him a top 4 defenseman. And shoot, he was beloved in Arizona as well. And I know towards the end, as with every player making some decent money and who refused to be traded, activating their no move clause, towards the end, that the last team to have the guy on the decline may not be the biggest fan of him. But upon joining the Minnesota Wild, he actually had a really good first season with the Minnesota Wild in his last few years here. He said he had no desire to move the family from Minnesota in order for some team just to give him whatever, a little bit of money, whether it was $1 million or just above, to play one more year, which he figured it would probably just be one more year, as he figured this would be the end. He said it makes it easier finishing his career in Minnesota. He told that to athletic writer and host of A Fellowship of the Rink, Joe Smith. He said, "I've had my fun. I've done it long enough." And that it was time. I think what was really cool as well, and his wife even commented on this in Joe Smith's article for The Athletic, which I'm sure Hoppy and Joe will get into it a lot next week, was that he played his 1,000th game at home in Minnesota. And he says, "I'm very lucky to end my career here. Don't know how many people get to do that, end their career in their home state, let alone their hometown, or close to their hometown anyways." So I feel like everybody's hometown is the Twin Cities, because it ain't the biggest state, and most hockey hubs are around here anyways. Just really cool that Alex Goligoski is content with this, that he actually had, I don't know if he officially had other offers, Seth, maybe you can touch more on that, but that there were options open and he decided, nope, I'm good, I'm content, and I get it now. Spend the rest of my years here in Minnesota, where he loves, the place where he grew up, the place where his family loves to be, and he will likely be, coaching his kids and, just living it up in here in retirement.
Well, and a few things to keep in mind about his career that I think a lot of players hope to be remembered by. Great teammate, great teammate. And a guy who I think was really well respected by his peers, even though, as you alluded to, he just hit father time. Those
Almost
final 2
40
years.
years old.
Yeah, he hit father time the final 2 years with the Minnesota Wild, but he took it in stride. It was a tough situation. Nobody wants to be the one to sit on the bench every game, and yet he took it in stride. He didn't create any sort of a fuss or make it about him. He continued to kind of, I'll do whatever is in the best interest of the team. He'll always have that unforgettable, the night that he was honored, in fact, by the Minnesota Wild, that game-winning overtime goal against the Carolina Hurricanes. Like that's going to be one that will stick with him for a while. But the thing that I find interesting, Isha, is that I don't think his ties to hockey are done. Because a couple of it might have been last year, the Minnesota Wild's social media team did like a survey that I think was brought up in The Athletic. He was voted as most likely to become an NHL GM or front office executive. And so if he, again, as we've talked about, he's got a newborn now and is going to be adjusting to life after playing. If he wants to get back into the game at some point, I don't think he's going to have any issue getting a front office role with somebody, whether it be one of the teams that he previously played for, whether it be somebody else. We see this happen all the time, and I know we're going to talk about another player that is doing this exact same thing. You see this happen all the time where players retire, they still want to stay around the game. They just hop into the front office. And if he wants to stay involved with the NHL, I don't think he's going to have any problem finding something in a front office role.
No, for sure. And I mean, won a Stanley Cup early in his career as well with the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's crazy. He spent half the year in Wilkes-Barre that year before coming up, playing 45 games with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Only played 2 playoff games, but still, it's still going to count. He played 2 playoff games with them. His name is still on the cup, which is super cool. Obviously, Minnesota Gopher as well. I mean, what a great career, man. And relatively healthy throughout his career, too, especially, I'm just looking at this stretch right here. 4 straight seasons of 80-plus games. 81, 81, 82, 82 with the Dallas Stars and Arizona Coyotes, over 1,000 games. And you said it there. Still likely going to be involved in hockey.
Yeah.
And we probably will see him at the pro level working in hockey down the road. I'm sure he's going to take a little bit of time. It just seems like he wants just to chill for a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
But I imagine that he'll have that itch that he wants to scratch eventually.
Yeah, and that's it. It's all about just enjoying for a little bit. It's similar to kind of the situation I'm going through right now, where you're in between gigs. You kick your feet up for a little bit to just enjoy an opportunity to kind of unwind. After a while, then the itch comes back, and you're like, okay, now it's time to get something.
Exactly. There's only so many days you can sleep in before you gotta wake up at the crack of dawn. I'm one of these guys who I feel guilty when I sleep in because I just I have to do something in the morning. Even on my days off, I have to do something. Whether it's just nerd out on sports, I have to do something. So even when work is slow, it's I still try. Now there's some days when I'm fucking streaming Japanese MMA till 5 a.m. We're okay, I'll go to bed at 5 a.m. and then wake up at 10 or something like that. But I'm that kind of guy who just I have to get up and do something. I've started to actually go running in the morning versus at night now because, the days are getting shorter. I used to be able to go run at 9 and have in a half an hour still of the sky's light enough. Whereas now it's if I'm not out there on the trail at 7:30, it's dark.
Yeah, I went today about 3. Nice breeze. It was in the low 70s. I was like, all right, we're back.
There we go.
Now, I don't have to put on sunscreen and avoid noon to 8.
Yeah.
Now we can just go. We can just go anytime.
That is true. It's been gorgeous the last few days as well.
It really has. We get this nice little stretch post Labor Day where the temps stay in the 70s range, and it's just perfect.
No cool September breeze yet, but it's coming.
It'll be here.
Right. Let's get back to getting your thoughts on the Sota Pod and Sound the Foghorn prospect rankings collaboration. Now, the final episode did release a couple days ago, earlier this week, on the Judd's Buds channel and on the Sota Pod podcast feed. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts. Or if you just want to listen to Judd's Buds and none of the other shows that we post on the Sota Pod feed, you can just find the Judd's Buds podcast feed now as well. We launched that this summer. Also on YouTube, we have the full episode as well as individual player profiles. But Seth, let's drag this out for another 2 weeks. So let's do one more here, and then let's do this one, and then let's do next week one more time. So let's go through 11 to 6 here. 11 to 6 here. You got it up as well. You can see the power rankings. You can see the average rankings. And you can see my rankings. Because for the most part, other than my boy at 15, whichever one rolled their eyes. But I had to do it. My top 10 was the most polarizing, and if anything, my top 5 was probably more polarizing, which obviously trickled down to my top 10. So for the listeners here who haven't gone and listened to that collaboration episode, again, I highly recommend you guys go do so. It was a lot of fun. But I have at 11 Rasmus Kupalainen. I have at 12 Caden Bankier. 11. Rasmus Kupalainen. 10, actually, I have Rieger Lorenz. 9, I have Hunter Haight. 7, I have Damon Hunt. 6, I have Zeev Buyam. And I think that was the most contentious pick there.
Yeah.
But my thing was, and you know what? And I know sometimes there's like some crazy comments on YouTube. I know there's sometimes some crazy comments on Twitter. And maybe I'm just crazy and that's why I was one of them. They all backed me. Every single one of them backed my logic for placing those guys there. And my logic was simply, if we're still going to add top prospects to this list and they're already doing well at the highest level in pro and we have that data on them, I have to rank them higher. I'm not going to rank them by projections. And that's just how I looked at this list, where nobody else in the collaboration did, and they shit on me the whole time. But anyways, I've talked enough about it in the collaboration show. What are your thoughts on my rankings, and what are your 11 to 6 rankings?
So I look at this list, and it is interesting because you have this nice mix of like recent additions. Obviously, Ryder Ritchie is a very recent addition to this group, having been drafted this past year.
Who I had at 14, by the way.
I mean, I really like the potential. I think potential is the word for all of the guys in this grouping. I don't think having Murat at 2, as you did in your top 10, even though he averaged out at 6, consensus 6 from everybody else that did the rankings. I don't think that's that crazy, because I think what slid under the radar with Huznadinov this past season, because it just really wasn't put in position to use it, was his speed. Like, it was to the point that people on Twitter were like openly wondering, like, is he actually fast? And having had the chance to watch him in person with the LockedOn Sens boys at a late season game, he does have the speed. And I just feel like he could turn into a real, just sneaky good penalty kill guy, because he's a center, so he can take face-offs, but also his ability to just get out and cover the entirety of the zone, I think is something that the Wild are going to start to rely on more and more, that can really help them. And that leads to, special teams points, leads to potential breakaway goals, things along those lines. We know how that worked with the Deweys when they were both playing on the penalty kill. But I think if you get offense from him, if you get consistent offense from Huznadinov, that's when he's really going to rise amongst Wild players. Damon Hunt and Carson Lambos, we've told the story about these defensive prospects and how it seemed like everybody just had kind of an inconsistent season with Iowa this past year. Damon Hunt, I think, is probably the most NHL ready.
I think he is.
Of them.
I think 100% he is.
Yeah, he got the time. He got a few games last year, but near the end of the season didn't come back up. But I think he's somebody that is close to being able to be, like, at worst, a third pairing defenseman for this team. Carson Lambos right behind him. Hunter Haight is the interesting one of this group for me, because what he brings that a lot of the guys on this list haven't really been able to do as much is the winning pedigree. Like, he just, everywhere he goes, he wins. And it's interesting that that's something that Brad Bombardier talked about at length during development camp, is the Wild are trying to put these different prospects in positions to where they can bring a ton of winning experience to this roster once they get in here, so that you go from having a roster of NHLers that doesn't really have a ton of experience in postseason, winning postseason series, to where now all of your prospects have won not only like series, but like championships at various levels. And so the pedigree that he brings, in addition, obviously, to the scoring, is just super appealing.
Well, and also, and I just want to, sorry to cut you off, I just want to note that, like, I think some people, or some Minnesota Wild fans, were a little bit concerned that he didn't take like a huge step up in point production, which he did. I mean, I guess by like per game, it wasn't too much because he wasn't over point per game this year, but he did do well in the goal department, 25 goals. But what Z and Hoppy really highlighted, and especially and Joe Smith, after talking to him, as Hoppy and Joe Smith did interview him on Fellowship of the Rink, was that this year he really worked on his two-way game. He really worked on his defensive game, and it showed, and it helped him be an asset for his team to win that Memorial Cup, because his team was absolutely stacked. Saginaw was absolutely stacked. He didn't have to be the primary point getter, the primary offensive guy on that team. Now, he helped them in that regard, playing top line minutes, but he could step back and play a secondary role when it came to offense and actually help in the two-way game and the defensive side of the puck as well. And it was evident this year. So he's coming in as a complete player in his first year pro, which is awesome.
Yeah, and the thing that I like too is you've got the stats on screen here. It's these guys, it's one thing to be part of a team that makes the postseason and kind of be happy to be there for the ride, so to speak. 9 goals in 17 postseason games for Hunter Haight. That's somebody that's stepping up and helping produce. And you look at some of these other players, not necessarily in this 11-6 group, but Riley Heidt, Danila Yurov, like these guys are big contributors to their team's success in these different levels of playoffs and championship play. So that's what I like too, is like you look at Hunter Haight and he's contributing, like he's throwing himself into the mix to help his team get to these upper levels. And that sort of pedigree is, once you get to the postseason, either you do the thing that you need to do or you don't. Like that, that's what it comes down to, is you either make the play or you don't. Yeah. And often that's the difference between winning and losing games. And a lot of these guys have had good success in postseason situations. And so I love the pedigree that they bring. Of this group, I mean, other than Hunter Haight, I still am a huge Who's Nadinov fan. And I think if we do see, although it's sounding now like we may not necessarily, but if we were to see a line of like Marcus Foligno, Murat Who's Nadinov, and Ryan Hartman,
that's a tough line to play against.
I think that'd be a pain in the ass to play against.
Well, the team's not getting the puck, or if they do, Who's Nadinov is going to snatch it right back. Yeah, Foligno's going to create space, and Hartman has an opportunity to get to the net.
Yeah, like I think that would be a real effective combo. And it's not,
Hartman's quick as well. Foligno's not the fastest guy, but we know why he can score goals if he's in front of the net there and his shot's okay. Hartman's still quick, and Who's Nadinov really quick. Maybe not like straight north-south speed, but he's quick, man. And he's so good at picking guys' pockets and getting pucks back in the corner too.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be a huge piece of that. And we're talking about a guy who still has a lot of tools that he can add to his arsenal. And the defense, I think, is already really good. If he takes any amount of steps forward offensively, look out.
He proved he could score at the KHL level, or at least put up points at the KHL level. There was that year he got over 40 points, and at every level of competition, international play, he was close to a point per game as well. Now, in the National Hockey League, I could see him, like you said, more as a, I don't want to say defensive forward, but more of a two-way forward who has a ceiling of, let's say, 55 points, all right? And a floor of like 35. But effective nonetheless, and not an anchor for his team. And shoot, maybe he does get more. Maybe he's a 60-point player. That would be awesome. But I'm being realistic from what I've seen right now. And shoot, if next season it's a ceiling of 55 and a floor of 35, I'm fucking stoked.
And if the offense takes a jump up, then all of a sudden you're looking at a guy who can help you on both special teams units, and having a middle six center that can win faceoffs and help you on both special teams units. There's a lot of value there.
Well, he just becomes, I guess, not a Swiss Army knife, but a Russian Army knife, because he can play the fucking wing, he can play the center, he can play penalty kill, he can play power play. That's huge. That's huge for a guy that you didn't even get in the first round.
Lot of value there.
Absolutely love it. Well, I'm excited to get into what I believe. I don't think it's going to be heated because you and I are like pretty cordial, and you and I don't get into fucking boxing matches. Still waiting for the boxing match, Hoppy. Like Hoppy and I do. But I do think, I'm going to defend myself like I did on the other show, where my internet actually cut me off as I was going off there about who's Nadinov. But I will give like my full reason of why I made the top five the way I did. And then I'll also allow you to swoon over Zeev Buim like everybody does. And I hate that people think that like I hate Zeev now. It's not that at all. I mean, I put him at fucking 6 out of 33, for God's sakes. It's just like, I want to see what he does this year, and I want to see how he does when he comes into the pro before I rank him above guys who have already checked all the boxes and who I've seen play pro and who have impressed me. But anyways,
and it's one thing to have a prospect pool where like the difference between 6 and 2 is massive, where you'd be like, okay, I don't get that at all. These top, at least,
we're so lucky.
The top 10 for this Minnesota Wild's prospects group, or even like, let's just say the top 6 based off of what I've got here on the spreadsheet. That's pretty stacked. You're talking about guys that you expect will not only make the NHL roster,
be like top 6 or top D guys,
high impact players, and you've got 6 of them right there that you expect are going to do massive things, like top 4 defense, number 1 goalie, and like top 6 players offensively.
Yeah, or who's Nadinov in like the best multi-tool player that they have in the system right now as far as young guy. Yeah.
That's not a tiny list. Like, they're pretty stacked up top.
Dude, Judd Brackett has stacked, let's be honest, like this whole list. Right.
And it's funny too, because the one pick that everybody is not sure about, like I'm even starting to come around too on Charlie Stramel. Like, everybody's eyes are going to be on him this year, but that is really the only pick in the first 2 rounds that you can even mildly question.
Yeah. No,
like,
for sure.
Every other pick that Judd Brackett has been responsible for has been just raved about.
Bro, they have so many guys who are knocking on the door or just there right now that they don't even have spots for them yet.
Yeah.
Like they're ahead of schedule, some of them, which is crazy. And also Billy Guerin re-signing Foligno and Gaudreau, but anyways.
Yeah. And then
you and Denny got into that on the live stream. I won't rip off the Band-Aid.
And then bringing Trennan in to do basically what Foligno's here for. That's like, well, you already have a guy here to do that, but Trennan's going to do it better.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get the move. At the same time, I get the move. If that makes any sort of sense, you know what I mean?
Well, as I said in the episode that I recorded before we started recording, the hope is that Trennan coming in and doing the job kind of puts in Billy's head, hey, if I need to come get one of these types of guys, I can go get them on the free agent market, and they're probably going to be just fine. Like, do that and go let these prospects help out with that scoring need.
Yeah, for sure. It's unfortunate that the extension for Foligno kicks in this year, because it's just like they're just not going to trade him this year. They're just not, right?
Nope.
That's the thing. Even if he puts up 20 goals this year, 35 points-ish range, right? Even 15 and 15 goals, 15 assists sort of thing, then he has value and he can potentially be moved next year. So we'll see. The Wild aren't making the playoffs this year. It doesn't matter.
No. So, it all, with Foligno, it all comes down to games played.
Yeah, because he's getting banged up more and more these days, which is another reason why they probably brought in Trennan. But again, we'll dive into that more of the conversation. Lions make up our thoughts on deployment and whatnot as we get closer to the season, which less than 30, was it 35 days or so, 34, 35 days at the time of this recording?
35 days until opening night. And I want to say it's 10. So it's 10 days till the Tom Curvers.
That's
nine days till the Tom Curvers prospect showcase, because that starts the weekend of my birthday.
Nice.
Don't ask me what age I'm turning, because I don't want to say.
You don't look a day over 24, Seth.
Well, thank you. I needed that little pick me up here today.
I shaved today, so I look like I'm still in my 20s too. Tomorrow I'll wake up with a full beard and
I think I'm on like a year plus with with facial hair. It's probably more like 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah, you rock it though. I feel like I look like Osama bin Laden when I grow my beard out. And in the United States now, living here, I just don't think that's a good idea. So
I'm just gonna do what the Vegas dealers do when it's time to reshuffle. Is I just am gonna do this.
Oh man!
Yeah,
all right, let's turn the page.
There's no segue to go from that to whatever's coming up.
I could have said Saddam Hussein, but I mean, jeez. Anyways, I wonder who I look more like. I'll have to put that to the test now. Neither of them are Persian. I don't even know why I'm doing that. Anyways, let's turn the page here and get serious though for a moment. And you and Alex did a great job on Locked On Wild talking about this. And I know you and I were texting last weekend a little bit as well when we heard the news. And by now, everyone knows the story, ladies and gentlemen, that Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau have passed away. They were struck by a reckless and drunk driver road biking on County Route 551 in their hometown of Oldsman Township. Now, the man who struck them, Sean Higgins, is facing 2 charges of death by automobile. He failed his sobriety test on site and admitted to having 5 to 6 drinks to the officers, to law enforcement there as well. It was reckless driving because he was passing on the right shoulder, not even shoulder lane, just on the right shoulder there, where the 2 young men were biking. And it's just a fucking tragic story, especially with, I mean, obviously with two people die, especially 2 guys in the sports world, superstar in the sports world, nothing but good things to be said about both their character as well. But just some of the layers to this as they were in their hometown to celebrate their sister's wedding the following day. How Johnny Gaudreau had 2 young children and he left behind his wife as well. His 2 children were 1 years old and 6 months. Fuck, that post that she made was so heartbreaking, Seth, with the picture of his kids there along with her. And his younger brother, Matthew Gaudreau, his wife was pregnant with the boy. It's just, it's gut wrenching, man. I had my heart sank, and I had that similar feeling of when I got news of the Humboldt Broncos accident a few years back. Right, it's just something that I didn't believe at first, and that just shocked me and shook up the hockey world. Right. I mean, I fucking hate drunk drivers. I have a friend, actually, a really dear friend of mine, who was struck by a drunk driver a few years back as well. And he was T-boned at an intersection by a drunk driver who then fled the scene. Motherfucker was caught, though, eventually, which justice has been served. But my friend Seth was struck, T-boned, and it was the one part off the highway that didn't have a medium that separated just basically like farm field that had a dip in it. And his car was submerged, and he was submerged underwater for, it was over 12 minutes or something like that. And by the graces of, if you want to call it higher power, luck, whatever you want to call it, an off-duty officer noticed something, like noticed the wreckage, noticed the car, and actually, and bless his soul, dove in and saved him. But because my friend was submerged for so long, he was in a coma for over a month, over 15 broken bones. When I saw him, when I went and visited him in the hospital a few days after the crash, he'd gone through some surgeries. I mean, he was puffed up and swollen like the Michelin Men, and being basically kept alive by machines. My friend is one of the most resilient people on the planet. He has since made a full recovery, no brain damage, and is actually a professional dancer and choreographer, hip hop dancer and choreographer, where he's made a full recovery and is actually 2 years after Seth has gone back to being able to work, dance, move, think, operate normally again. And obviously that's not the case for the Gaudreau brothers, which is just horrendous. But yeah, so I just wanted to share that because it's near and dear to my heart, and I'm so blessed, and my friend Gabriel, his family is so blessed that he survived that. But man, there were moments, especially when I saw him, that I was like, he's never going to be the same again. Or when I heard the news, I didn't think he was going to make it, sort of thing. So, and he's like a brother to me, right? So this really hits close to home. I think it's so fucking selfish, not only to recklessly drive like an idiot. Everyone, like, you're gonna get to your fucking destination when you get there, right? Like, there's no need for that, and furthermore, there's no need to get behind the wheel a few drinks in, especially in this day and age with Uber and everything like that. Being in a city or even smaller towns these days. So yeah, like I said, my heart sank when I heard about their deaths. It rocked kind of my mental state, just like the Humboldt Broncos accident, where I now remember the moment I heard this story, just like when I heard the Humboldt Broncos story. Actually, it happened on my birthday. I was at a hockey game celebrating it with two of my friends who played in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. One of them actually played for Nipawin, the team that the Humboldt Broncos were playing in that playoff series. And I will never forget, both of their phones rang at the same time, and they both answered, and they didn't know the severity of it yet. But I mean, Saskatchewan, it's a small province, especially in the hockey world. Everyone knows everybody. So we all kind of were just sitting there silent. And over the weekend, I was up, like I said, at my friend's cabin. When we all were talking about this, we kind of just sat there in silence, disbelief, and we're kind of just mourning as well. Anyways, that's just kind of my thoughts on it. I know everyone's heard the story. You and Alex had a great episode talking about it, but I'd love for you to share a few words as well.
Yeah, and it's, the thing that I take away from this, which is a real, it's really unfortunate, but I wanted to be really thought out in how I reacted, because we all, like, the reaction that we all should be having to this event is the sadness for the Gaudreaus and the families left behind, the children left behind. But the thing that I keep going back to is just the anger as to why this happened. And you talk about, not only reckless driving, but drunk driving too. It's a choice. It's 100% a choice. Yeah. It's a choice that every single person makes that does it. And it is maybe the single most preventable thing that can be just 100% avoided in literally every situation. And the other frustrating part about it too is it's not like you roll the dice after it happens and you figure out what the consequences are at that moment. You know them full well going to the bar. You know what could happen if you have too many and you get behind the wheel. But this dude, who the video is out there, his reaction to learning that he was going to spend the entirety of Labor Day weekend behind bars and not drinking at that same bar, most likely, was you mean I have to be here till Thursday?
Yeah. You just
Like,
killed two people, you piece
didn't
of
just
shit.
kill 2 people. Because here's the other part of this too. There was a car in front of this guy on that road that was doing the courteous driver thing and moving over to the left to allow them proper room.
Yeah.
And this dude thought that the driver was trying to prevent him from passing because also with reckless driving, he was going at a high rate of speed. And so he pulls up on this situation and says, oh, this jackass in front of me is just trying to prevent me from passing him. So I'm going to go into the right side. Oh, whoops. Couple of bikers. And his biggest worry is that then he won't be able to go back to that bar for Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, dude, fuck that guy, man.
And like this is what I'm talking about though, is it's not only this, but there's the other aspect of this that really makes me upset. Is the fact that it's most likely that the Gaudreaus found out about this on social media as opposed to from the authorities, because it was floated that there was potential that this happened according to a source, and then all of a sudden that got deleted because it wasn't corroborated. Let the authorities do their job and report this to the families as opposed to trying to, for the reporter that put it out there first, and then retracted it, got let go from the publication he worked at because he was trying to get clout by breaking this news. It's not a fucking trade. It's not an injury situation. It's a life. It's 2 lives. Let the authorities do their jobs. Don't chase social media clout as a journalist. It sickens me. Like, and this is why I get frustrated, is because it should be about the loss of the Gaudreaus, but the reason that it happened and then the way in which the news was broken on social media are the 2 big headlines.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Well said. It's the whole situation's fucked up. Right.
Uber exists. Uber, the app, exists.
Lyft.
All you have to do, and I know the big inconvenience is having to go back and get your car the next day, or to park in a spot where you maybe have a 2-hour limit or you're going to get towed. Well, guess what? If having to go back and get your car the next day is that big of an inconvenience that you're just going to drive home from the bar drunk, don't go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that, dude. So
I do want to shout out the GoFundMe for the Gaudreaus at last update had received over $500,000.
Yeah, for Matthew's wife and his unborn child. Yeah.
I don't want to slight any other Wild players if they have also contributed, but I know from what I saw on social media, Ryan Hartman and Jared Spurgeon both did. And so
there was a few others. I don't have it up in front of me, so I won't even drop the names, but I'm pretty certain I saw a few others with the list as well. And who knows, sometimes people make big donations and they just private.
They do it anonymously, right? So, which is perfect. That is perfectly fine. I love to see the hockey community come together in times like this. I go back to the fact that the reason that this happened could have been entirely prevented. And if I lose a family member, I don't want to, because the moment it got put out there, their phones started blowing up.
Yeah.
And you then make, as the person that leaks that, you make the grieving process about you. You put it on your schedule. It's called the grieving process for a reason, because everybody handles it at a different pace. And being allowed to do so at your own pace is the only thing that matters in those situations.
No, I agree. Well said. It's tragic fucking news. And as divisive as the hockey world is, as divisive as hockey fans are, I mean, everyone's coming together in support here. I saw the gathering in front of the Columbus Arena, the outpouring of love in Calgary in front of the Saddle Dome. Like you mentioned, pro players donating to this GoFundMe as well. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say. And our next story, it's a hard right turn. We're gonna take it, and the next story is not even much better here, as another death in the hockey world occurred a few days after. Just want to give a condolences and rest in peace to the father of Pavel and Valerie Bure. Vladimir Bure, who spent years with the New Jersey Devils organization. He passed a few days ago and spent over a decade with the organization. The New Jersey Devils made a statement saying a former Olympic medalist in swimming, became a pioneer in the field of athletic training for 30 years. He served as fitness consultant for the New Jersey Devils from 1999 to 2010. And he had his name engraved on the Stanley Cup in 2000 and 2003. So just didn't want to overlook that as well. Obviously, I wanted to talk about the Gaudreaus with you and just share a little bit of how I felt when I first heard that story, but didn't want to overlook and not give our condolences also to Vladimir Bure, who passed away this week as well. Okay, now we'll take the hard right turn. We'll take the hard right turn here, but let's dive into some NHL news, and then we'll cap off the show talking about just some hockey news. And we won't drag these tidbits out too long, ladies and gentlemen. But Seth teased this early in the show when he was talking about how Goligoski might actually move into a management role now that his career is done, and how there was another player who played also for 17 seasons in veteran defenseman Marc Staal. I mean, defenseman, 17 seasons. Marc Staal immediately begins a new role in front office with the New York Rangers upon retiring from the National Hockey League, and he's going to be working in player development. Now, Marc Staal spent 13 years with the New York Rangers, 2 years with the Detroit Red Wings, and 1 year with the Philadelphia Flyers. Mostly, he was a defensive defenseman who played a ton of minutes, even on his ELC. And I actually remember that in his 3 rookie years with the New York Rangers, he basically, after halfway through his first season, played his way into a top 4 role. He played over 1,000 games, 1,136 games. He had 53 goals and 223 points, averaged 22 minutes a night, again, during his ELC run. And he had 11 seasons where he appeared in the playoffs, overall at a plus 52 rating and an overall average ice time of 19 minutes and 56 minutes. He played 128 playoff games where he averaged 21 minutes and 46 seconds. Now, I know towards the end, especially in New York, I have some friends who are Rangers fans and some friends who actually live in New York. They couldn't stand him towards the end of his career. They were, calling him pylon and whatnot. And look, he lost a lot of that mobility that he had early, kind of that quickness, and was burned by some of these faster players as the game evolved. But he was still able to have decent success in Detroit. And I mean, the Philadelphia Flyers were confident giving him over $1 million last year to play with them as well. Now, I know he only played 35 games with them last season. My apology. He played 1 year with the Florida Panthers as well. Totally forgot about that, where he played 82 games with them. So yeah, 13 years with the New York Rangers, 2 years with the Detroit Red Wings, 1 year with the Florida Panthers, and 1 year with the Flyers. Also faced some injuries towards the end of his career as well, but a long career. He was 12th overall in 2005, had a great run with the Sudbury Wolves in the OHL, and it's cool to see that, he's going kind of back to where it all started in the National Hockey League with the New York Rangers, to help in player development.
Well, these are the types of players that make the perfect player development leaders. Because it's one thing to make it to the NHL level, but it's another thing to stay there.
Right.
And you go back to the mid 2000s, think about how much the game has changed from then to now, and all the things that Marc Staal has seen throughout the years.
Especially with these playoff runs with the Rangers here from like 2011 to like 2016, 17, where they were like contenders almost every year going into the playoffs.
Yeah, he's going to be able to take all of that knowledge that he's learned and impart that on every Rangers prospect as they make their way up. And it's just, to be like a sounding board for these guys. If they have questions about, hey, I'm going through such and such, like how do I move past that? Or I feel like this just isn't, like, it's just not working out for me. Like, how do I move past it? Like, he's literally seen it all. And so he's going to be able to come in and help this next few generations of Rangers prospects make it. And, it's similar to like Brad Bombardier with the Minnesota Wild is. Yeah. These guys know exactly what it took for them to get up to the NHL level. And so then they can tailor a program to be able to help all of the different prospects at various levels. Like, that's the other part of it too, is you've got guys at all these different levels of skill, and you can go through and relate to just about every one of those and try to help them all out for the same goal.
No, absolutely. As we pivot here, it's kind of it's an interesting segue because we're going to talk about another New York Rangers player here, not a defenseman and not a guy who really took the normal or even best path to the NHL, but we're going to talk a little bit about Matt Rempe. Matt Rempe was recently interviewed by a journalist from the New York Post, and a lot of blogs, a lot of social media avenues and media avenues have jumped on this interview to give their opinions and to talk about this as well, because though there was a lot of pushback both from the hockey world, casuals and Rangers fans, there was a lot of love for this player as well. But a lot of people were concerned at how much Matt Rempe was fighting upon entering the league. Now, he was a 6th round pick in 2020, played a little bit of AJHL hockey, but mostly spent his time with the Seattle Thunderbirds of the WHL, where, again, he wasn't a point getter. He was a fighter. And he has been quoted saying, yeah, I do want to hone my and polish my hockey skills, but I know my role. I know why I'm here. I know why I'm in this sport, and that is to fight. And he loves it. He played 2 years with the Hartford Wolfpack. Surprise, surprise. He fought a lot in those games, playing 53 games in 2022, 2023, and 43 games in 2023, 2024. But last year, he also played 17 games with the New York Rangers, and 11 playoff games, I should mention, where he amassed 71 penalty minutes in 17 games. He did score 2 points, scoring a goal and an assist. Now, he was quoted saying that he does not plan to stop fighting anytime soon. Many people thought that he fought too much in the NHL last season. He had 3 fights in his first 5 games, and he didn't shy away from fighting the big boys. Now, he is a big guy. He's 20. He's young. He's baby-faced out there, but he's over 6 feet tall, 6'7", 241 pounds. Like, he is massive. He's absolutely huge, but he's not like jacked yet, right? He's going up against these massive men out there, seasoned fighters in the National Hockey League. And that was, I think, the concern from a lot of the hockey world, was we just don't see kids like this anymore. We don't see a lot of kids built like him anymore playing in the NHL, but we don't see kids coming into the National Hockey League and just fighting all the heavyweights right off the bat. He was quoted saying he wants to continue to fight while he's still young, and he should take advantage of fighting the NHL's best. He said legends like Matt Martin, Nick Delorier, Ryan Reeves, if they want to fight, I'm in no position to say no. They're giving me an opportunity. And he loves fighting. It's part of the game, and he thrives in that part of the game. That's how he's making his money. That's how he's going to make his millions of dollars. Who are we to tell this guy who's an adult making the choice to do this to find another job, right? This is his job. He wants to do it, right? And it's not like the Rangers are saying, like, go out and do it every night. The Rangers, if anything, have tried to reel him back a little bit and told him to pick his spots a little bit more. And he says he really enjoys it and he understands the Rangers' concern, but he wants to fight smart, both technically and in better situations this season versus just coming in to prove something like he did last season. Now, he actually has been training Muay Thai in one of the top Muay Thai gyms in Canada, in Calgary, where he's from. And he trains with Local One Championship, which is one of the top fight promotions in the world. At one point, it was like the number 2, number 3 MMA promotion. Now it's kind of moved more towards Muay Thai and kickboxing. But he trains with active Muay Thai fighters who are signed to One Championship, who train out of Calgary, and former WHL fighters who are now training Muay Thai and kickboxing as well in that gym. He also spent the summer, and he said, and was quoted, it wasn't a gimmick. I didn't do this for clout. He didn't care if the media reported on this or not, but he trained with George Laroque this offseason and summer to really get more opinions, extra eyes watching his fights both at the WHL level and the NHL level to get advice on ways to polish his fight skills, to do more damage and to take less damage, sort of thing. He says, I want to be a big time enforcer in the National Hockey League, but first and foremost, I want to protect my teammates. He says he's not a fan of stage fights. He wants to stand up for himself and his teammates. That is key. He though has learned that he has to do it at the most advantageous time possible for himself, so he's maximizing the value of the fight for the team, not just himself, kind of like he did last year, to just make a name for himself and come in like a wrecking ball. I love fighting in hockey. I'm old school. I grew up in small town Canada, where especially the WHL, it was a very, very rough league when I was growing up. And as far as the junior leagues go today, it's still the rougher leagues. The NHL is far from what it was. If I'm going to watch hockey fights these days, I'm going to watch the UK league and the LNAH or the ECHL. But I mean, what are your thoughts on this kid just mindset here and his path to the National Hockey League, as he truly is a unicorn these days, where back in the day, and especially you being a Minnesotan, watching, Bugard going through everything that he did, coming from the WHL as well.
It's interesting because he truly is like a throwback. He is a guy that would have been, you'd have teams clamoring for Rempe to be part of their roster even back in the 90s. But it's just become less and less of a focal point for teams as we prioritize speed and skill more and more. But I think the thing to really take away from this is, the main thing that his teammates are going to be worried about is if he says he's got their back, and he does, that's all they really want, is somebody that is in a position to, with his size, be able to do something if somebody on the other team tries to start anything. If he comes in to defend, that's a guy that I would want on my team, as opposed to somebody who just isn't going to do anything once those situations arise. And so I applaud him for going out of his way to try to reinforce the aspect of his game that he thinks he can make the biggest impact with. And I say this mostly tongue in cheek, but if there was an opportunity to get a guy like this, Billy would come calling.
Dude, they drafted that guy this year.
That's
Leskovar
right.
This year.
That's right.
And Leskovar has more skill than Matt Rempe. I'm just gonna say it. He does. He just chooses not to use it because he likes being more of a wrecking ball in the fighter. Whereas Matt Rempe recognized that, I'm bigger than everybody, and I like fighting, and I train fighting in the offseason to stay in shape. I do Muay Thai for fun. And Muay Thai is a brutal sport, guys. Muay Thai is the art of 8 limbs, right? Muay Thai is elbows, knees, punches, kicks. It's the real deal, right? And again, furthermore, the guys who he's training with, they fight Muay Thai with small gloves, with 4-ounce gloves, not 8-ounce gloves, because that's One Championships Muay Thai is 4-ounce gloves versus the traditional Thai boxing and the 8-ounce or 12-ounce gloves. So It's crazy. Like he spars, and again, Muay Thai is way different than a hockey fight. But as far as like building toughness and just like no fear, he's training with absolute killers as for sparring and workout. And I'm not saying these guys are getting elbowed in the fucking face in the gym, but he's training with high level guys in a realm that and in a realm that's going to help his mindset for what he has to do on the ice, right? And this guy's not going to play 50 or 40 games in the National Hockey League every year. They're going to selectively use him, right? But I hope eventually he signs a one-way ticket. Even if he sits in the press box for a lot of it, I'm sure he'll know what games he has to go out there and play for. And in the playoffs, that's when he's going to be their biggest asset.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. In the playoffs, he will become an asset for them for sure.
Because in the playoffs, nobody's going to fuck around with the Rangers top line if they know that he's just waiting there like a freaking lunatic to jump over the boards, right?
All he needs is to be told where to lower his head and to charge to. And
I think that is, and for bringing it back to a Minnesota Wild perspective, that's the biggest difference between him and Bugard. Bugard didn't necessarily love to fight. He recognized that that's what not only got him to the National Hockey League, but got him into the WHL. Yeah. Whereas Rempe loves it. Like I swear, if Rempe wasn't fighting in hockey, he would be boxing, he would be kickboxing, he would be in a fighting sport, right? Whereas Bugard didn't necessarily love it. He knew he had to do it.
Yeah. He recognized it as a necessary part of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's switch gears into some quick hockey news here, and then we'll wrap up this portion of the show, Seth. Quickly, I don't know if you kept tabs on any of the Olympic qualifiers that occurred last weekend, but the final men's teams for the 2026 Olympic Winter Games have been set. And over the last weekend, Latvia, Denmark, and Slovakia earned the final spots. Now, France played well enough where they are the next team up and will replace Russia, or should I say the Olympic athletes of Russia, if the IOC doesn't allow the Russian athletes to compete and doesn't allow a Russian team to play. France will be the ones that replace them. They actually played better than the Kazakhs, which I was surprised but happy to see. So the teams that are going to be competing in Milano Cortina in 2026 are Canada, Czech Republic, Denmark, Finland, Germany, Italy, funny enough, Latvia, Slovakia, Sweden, Switzerland, USA, and Russia or France. And we get motherfucking NHL players back, which I'm so excited for. Germany, you ain't winning shit this time around. Fuck off.
Those groups are intriguing too. Like you got USA with either Russia or if Russia is not suspended, then it'll be Russia, US, Slovakia, and Latvia. If not, it'll be the US, Germany, Latvia, and Denmark.
Yeah.
And then Canada, Switzerland, and either Sweden and Italy or Czechia and France. This is gonna be interesting because we had this conversation about just like expectations for US and for Canada. And I think it's pretty much the same thing here. Like you go in expecting to win the gold, and if you don't, you go away disappointed. But you look at the road for Slovakia to get in. They don't have any NHL players on their roster. They still got it done. And so it's all about how well you play in Olympic competition. But those, especially with NHL players on the roster, like US and Canada, they're out to win this thing.
Well, Seth, I already have like half of our Locked On Wild and Sota Pod off-season material for next summer. We're literally just going to make our Olympic rosters with NHL players and mixed with some of the domestic players as well. Because obviously teams like Switzerland and even Sweden, you're not going to be able to fill the entire team. Now, actually, you know what? Maybe Sweden you can. Finland, I'll say. Or Slovakia and Czech Republic. Those three. Finland, close. Sweden, you probably could fill the entire team with NHL players, to be perfectly honest. But those other ones, you're going to have to look domestically as well. And yeah, so I'm very excited. I love international hockey. World Juniors is my favorite hockey competition. Yes, even more than the high school state tournament, but it's getting close. The tourney's getting close. But I'm an absolute junkie when it comes to the World Juniors. I'm excited to cover it and host a bunch of watch parties for it on the channel, like I did a couple years ago. We're going to basically be covering every single game this year. Except for obviously ones that are going on at the same time, but every back-to-back game this year, it's going to be awesome. And I love Olympic hockey as well. And it just sucked without NHL players. It just really did. And I know it's Olympics are for amateur athletes, not in fucking hockey. If NBA players were allowed to go compete in basketball, NHL players should be allowed to compete as well. Glad that the IOC, NHL, and IHF were finally able to settle their differences. Get insurance for these players, get their families tickets and room and board paid for, and all that jazz. The only two things that sucked from this is Vancouver Canucks backup goalie was injured for Latvia, and Oliver Bjorkstrand was injured playing for Denmark as well in these qualifier matchups, which again, so close to the National Hockey League season, especially for Canucks who have an injured Demko. I mean, they don't have any goalies going into camp right now. Knock on wood, they'll both be there by regular season, but Oliver Bjorkstrand is a big hit as well. So I think those are the only two notable names, but still, NHL teams can't be happy. They're like, all right, here we're already going with this Olympic shit.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Is like the NHL is always looking at the injury situations in these instances, and the fact that there are already a couple that have happened, they're like,
oh god,
okay,
yeah. Last thing I want to get into here, Seth, before we hang up the skates, is we have an update, and we're going to be talking about this quite a bit as we move into 2025 this year too, because it's just a big, mind you, gross fucking story in the world of hockey. But it's a story that, again, going back to like World Juniors for me, I watched all of these guys develop and get their and basically work their way into the National Hockey League team. And the fact that this incident of alleged gang sexual assault happened at a World Juniors banquet with a World Juniors team, one of the best World Juniors teams that I've seen in the last decade, just makes me sick as both a hockey fan, but also a Canadian hockey fan who obviously rooted for this team and celebrated this team in their victory. Now I know I don't feel like guilt or anything like that, but it's just still fucking gross. So I want to stay abreast with this story. I want to stay informed, and we're going to talk about it here because there's not a lot of hockey podcasts, quite frankly, who are talking about it. So latest update here, Seth, was a judge, Superior Court Justice Bruce Thomas, let five, the former NHL players and World Junior Team Canada players skip pretrial arguments earlier this week in the sexual assault case. All the World Junior players, former World Junior players, expect to plead not guilty at the 2025 trial. This proceeding was for their lawyers to discuss what evidence will and won't be presented to the jury. And the reason for granting the permission here was that and I'm just going to quote this from an article from the CBC, the applicants have each provided an affidavit wherein they acknowledge the importance of the proceedings and waive the necessity of attending the hearings. It is clear each of the applicants has a need to work or find work, not only to sustain themselves, but to pay their legal expenses, which at this point include big legal fees. In his reasons for allowing the players not to appear in court for pretrial arguments, Judge Thomas wrote, all five were skilled junior hockey players who stopped playing after being charged with the sexual assault earlier this year. They are unable to play in the National Hockey League at this point. The judge wrote that Cody McLeod and Dylan Dubé have signed contracts in the KHL in Kazakhstan and Belarus. The judge said the travel required by the league and the time zone differences make it extremely difficult to participate in these pre-trial applications. Who was the other one? Alex Alex Formington lives in Barrie, Ontario, and he has moved on from a hockey career, the court documents state, but is working full-time in construction and getting ongoing training in the operations of heavy equipment, as well as the administration aspects of the new trade. And Cal Foote and Carter Hart aren't playing, but have indicated that their training must continue at a high level if they're going to have some hope of continuing to play professional hockey. Foote lives in Denver and Hart lives in Alberta, but wants to move to Nashville, Tennessee. The Crown did not argue against granting the players their applications, but noted it is a significant accommodation. Of course, the KHL assigned to them. Jake Virtanen got a job. Now, Jake Virtanen was proven to be innocent in his case with the that stemmed in Vancouver. Separate case, not involved in this one. But obviously NHL teams didn't, and it could have also been part that he's just not very good. But no NHL team wanted to touch that during his case, but the KHL swooped him up right away.
Yeah, this is interesting because I can see with the travel for the KHL why that would be a hindrance to be able to attend, but like if you're training, like aren't you able to just find a spot to train within reasonable distance of these proceedings? And ultimately,
I mean, it's London, Ontario. Like you're going to be like, there's straight up facilities there. I've lived in London, Ontario. I spent a year there. Like
ultimately all the pretrial stuff that's for the lawyers anyway. Yeah. So I guess in the grand scheme of things, it's not a huge deal, but it does serve as a good reminder for these players that when these proceedings get going, this is going to take a long time. It's going to cost them a lot in legal fees. And so this might have been
a big and long trial.
This might have been the judge too, just trying to kind of put that in all of their heads of like, yeah, we'll give you the opportunity now to get all of your affairs in order, because once this gets going, it's just going to be full bore until the trial concludes. It'd be a different reaction entirely, I think, if the legal team was trying to, delay the proceedings, things like that. But the fact that the trial is the fact that it's moving forward, at the end of the day, this is more for the lawyers than it is for anybody else.
Yeah, no, for sure. So we'll keep tabs on this. And again, I mean, Cody McLeod's lawyer has not shied away from giving his quotes on the matter, saying that Cody McLeod will be very vigorously defending his case. Has always taken the position that he is not guilty of any wrongdoing. The judge also said that he was content that the applicants understand the seriousness of the allegations they face and the right they are giving up. Thomas wrote, I've exercised my discretion to allow each of the applicants to be absent from the upcoming pretrial applications, with the exception of those where oral testimony will be heard. So interested to see if there's maybe a Zoom call or a phone call, even with one or two of them, if they are going to give if they're not going to be there in person, but are going to give an oral testimony.
Yeah. And if any of that gets missed, then all bets are off, because you can really only ask for favor and leniency with judges so many times before they just are like, you have exercised all the patience you're going to get.
Yeah. This is going to be a big one, dude. And shout out to Rick Westhead of TSN, investigative journalist. He is on this case, as he is all the, I'll use the word severe cases in the hockey world. So big shout out to him. I get all my info and my updates from him, both TSN and the CBC. So there you go. We crammed a lot for missing a whole week. Even in the summer, we crammed a lot into this episode, Seth.
There's never any shortage of things to talk about, because the thing that I like about our crossovers is that oftentimes they lead to tangents that you don't plan for that end up being like the highlight portion of the episode.
100%. Those are my favorite parts. Absolutely.
And as we get closer to the season and start to really dive into like roster battles and stuff, that's only going to continue.
Oh, I'm excited because what we did the end of the season last year when we started collaborating, right? Like mid towards the end of the season. We got a full season ahead of collaboration, so it's going to be fun.
Can't wait.
Freaking yeah. What do you got coming up on LockedOn Wild?
We got Joe Smith joining the show to get us a little closer, and we're keeping an eye on PWHL this year too.
New general manager.
Yeah, I don't want to say I was surprised because again, state of hockey, but we had a strong contingent of fans that were asking for some PWHL coverage, and so we'll be checking in with Alexis Pearson quite often throughout the season, and
Nice.
we're going to get her on next week to break down the release of the name of the team, which is going on Monday. And,
do we have a logo yet?
Not yet, but that's all coming on Monday. And so we'll
Utah's
talk about
going to get a logo before this team. I swear to God.
I know. So we'll talk about all that. We'll talk about the new GM as well with Alexis next week. So
awesome. Yeah, Alexis does great work covering the PWHL.
A plus.
I listened to her on KFan as I saved a bunch of the initials games for my drive up to the cabin. She did pretty good. It's a hard game. Which, by the way, and again, this was pre-recorded, and this will be the last thing I say. I got to start calling into that show because I could have been $72,000 richer. And this was 2 weeks back, so it doesn't matter because it was pre-recorded. But as we were driving up, me and my friends, we were giving our initial predictions and things like that.
Yeah,
dude, HL, I got it right. I got one right. On not just one initial, both of them in the right order. I got to start calling in. I could use that 70 grand. Even if it's going to be taxed like crazy here in the States, I don't care. I'll walk away with 40. I don't give a fuck.
Where would the Minnesota Wild podcaster party have been had you won?
I would have just bought a place for us to live and party and podcast.
Oh my!
Could you been Seth, move to the cities? I bought a house. I'll honestly probably buy this house I'm living in right now.
Could you imagine a content house for the Minnesota Wild podcasts?
We got to start calling in, you and I. Seth, these are my initials. They haven't used SS in 4 months. Let's one of us try one of those. We're going to win that money.
You tell me what you go with and I'll do it.
Let's fucking go. All right, Seth, thanks again. I will see you on LockedOn Wild on Friday. This episode of the Sota Pod is brought to you by BetterHelp. And look, ladies and gentlemen, everyone goes through ups and downs. Everyone goes through rough patches in life. And it's important to identify and stay true to your self-care routine. Whether that's leg day at the gym or therapy day. Is your schedule packed with summer activities for the kids, work that's keeping you inside versus enjoying the good weather? Or are all the boxes checked and you're confused as to why you're feeling down? Sometimes we can have everything in the world that makes us happy and we still don't feel right. Sometimes we need to talk about it with somebody and a shoulder to lean on. Therapy should be in those non-negotiable self-care routines if that's the case. And if you haven't talked to anybody before, if you haven't talked to a therapist and you're thinking about it now, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient and suitable to your schedule. So right off the bat, there's a stress lifted off your shoulder. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge if you feel like that person is not a fit for you. Just like those who use the gym for self-care, much like myself, never skip your run day, never skip your leg day, never skip your therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/THPN to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/THPN. Again, to get 10% off your first month here today. We're looking out for you guys. BetterHelp.com/THPN. Take advantage of our deal and start feeling better today with BetterHelp. Big shout out to Seth again for joining us each and every week. As always, check out his Friday installment of Locked On Wild to see my appearance as I'm on the show every single Friday, and we always have a lot of fun. We're breaking down all the divisions in the NHL for this preseason series that we're doing. I did like 2 hours of freaking, I don't want to say research because I'm not to, I'm patting myself on the back. I was saying not to pat myself on the back, but I am. I am versed in the divisions in the league at this point, as the season's just around the corner, but took a lot of notes and approached our breakdown in, I think, a more detailed fashion than what a lot of people, or how a lot of people are doing it on their podcasts and things like that. And Seth really appreciated the research. I had like 2 pages of notes, and he's like, geez, dude, I only have 1. But anyways, big shout out to Seth. It's always great bringing him on the show, and I look forward to jumping on the next Locked On Wild segment on Friday. Before we wrap up the show here, just want to remind you guys to check out 7th Avenue Pizza. They are the best pizza on the planet, ladies and gentlemen. You don't need Domino's. You don't need Delissio. You don't need Papa John's. You don't need any high-end pizza. Giordano's, throw that shit in the garbage. You don't need it. All you need is 7th Avenue Pizza. It's the best pizza in the state. It's the best pizza in the country. It's the best pizza on the planet. I don't even need to go to Italy to try their hipster ass pizza. We have the best pizza at Hy-Vee, at BOGO, at Lunds and Byerly, and pretty much everywhere now in Minnesota. Be sure to follow them on social media, as they are totally interactive. Be sure to ask them if you're unsure of where you can find 7th Avenue Pizza in your area in the state and or in the cities, and go support them today, guys. They are, like I said, the best pizza. They're the best people, an awesome local company. Matt and the crew are just amazing, and they're going to continue to be at Gophers football tailgate parties, so be sure to tell them what's up and that the Sota Pod crew sent you, or just say hello, heard you guys on the Sota Pod. Give me a pizza pie. 7th Avenue Pizza, awesome local company, my favorite pizza on the planet, and they're soon to be yours as well, and they're a proud partner of the Sota Pod. Reminder, no happy hour on the audio side, no happy hour on the video side. I'm putting together a bigger vlog of multiple breweries that I hit on my way to my friend's cabin and on the way back home from my buddy's cabin Labor Day weekend. As you can hear, my voice ain't the best. I talked about in the opening segment. I will do my voiceover likely tonight or tomorrow, Monday night or early Tuesday, and that will be on next week's episode. And on the audio side of things, I will give a rundown on all the beers as well. But if you're listening via the podcast, as always, even if you just want to check out the video for the beer review or beer vlogs that we post in the video, that's cool too. But just a reminder, if you want to get the full experience of the Sota Pod, the full experience of the podcast, check us out on YouTube at the Sota Pod. And we don't only just post Sota Pod episodes. We post clips from Judd's Buds, Fellowship of the Rink, full podcast episodes, and soon to be MNCAA, as well as Judd's Buds live streams every single Monday. So content posting every single day on that channel, as well as yours truly, the Sota Pod. Last but not least, big shout out to our friends at Better Edge. Guys, Better Edge is a free platform with legal betting in the state of Minnesota among 44 other states, and we have a gift for you. That's right. NFL season is in full effect. College football season is in full effect. Hockey season is just around the corner, and well, MMA and UFC, it just never stops. And we're going to give you $20 to play around with if you sign up by going to betteredge.com/SotaPod. That is right, betteredge.com/SotaPod for a $20 signing bonus. Are you kidding me? And if you've already signed up and you're loving the app, much like I am, make my UFC picks every single week. And actually, cha-ching, I actually won some money betting on college football. I don't know squat about college football, but my friends are telling me that the underdog last week, one of the underdogs last weekend was good, and I won myself $15 because some sucker took my pick decide to take my matchup, go head to head with my pick there. So let's freaking go. Let's freaking go. If you're already loving the app and you want to get more out of the app, you can become a premium player by going to betteredge.com/premium. Premium players have access to free entry to premium pick'em contests, order grades, advanced order filterings, API access, and more. Like I said, more details at betteredge.com/premium. But if you have not even signed up yet, check us out, betteredge.com/Sota Pod. Claim your $20 signing bonus and join many of the contests this season that Hoppy and I will be hosting. Wild Pick'em contests, World Junior contests, probably college football playoff contests, various NFL contests. And I'm going to start hosting some MMA contests as well, so be sure to look out for those. Better Edge is also a great local company, ladies and gentlemen, great people who run it, and they are a proud partner of the Sota Pod. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. That is it for the show. Thank you guys for tuning in on Google, Spotify, Apple Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts from. Don't forget to leave a rating and review on the audio side of things, as it just gets us in front of more ears. And if you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe, and comment on the video, as we're totally interactive and it helps us get in front of more eyes on YouTube as we grow the Sota Pod channel. And I will be back streaming multiple watch parties and watch alongs throughout the Minnesota Wild season. I will post the schedule a month ahead of time so you know which games I will be covering. So don't forget to join me in the live chat for those. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hoppy Hour back next week. Seth back next week as always. And appreciate every single one of you who continue to support us here. Season just around the corner. Preseason starts next week, ladies and gentlemen. Let's freaking go. Less than 30 days. Less than a month until the National Hockey League starts. So excited for that. Signing off, I'm Isha Dromey alongside Seth Toupal. This has been the Sota Pod presented by Better Edge, 7th Avenue Pizza, Northland Vodka, and Waggle Golf. Don't fear, just drink some beer and stay wild.